Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Subhash Kari, the Chief Innovation Officer at Infocepts, overseeing our global practices and delivery organization. Infocepts is a US-based global data and AI solutions firm. Our mission is to bridge the gap between the worlds of business and analytics to help organizations make better decisions faster and with more confidence. We have partnered with the Chief Data Officer magazine on a series of interviews to bring pragmatic, evidence based insights to business and technology leadership to advance their insights driven journey. Today, I have with me Ms. Anna Hannem, Vice President, Data and AI Risk at Scotiabank. I'm curious, right, that AI is a lot about innovation, and innovation requires a little bit of experimenting, a little bit of risk taking, right? So, how do you manage the risk appetite in leadership to make sure that innovation can be promoted while still protecting, I think, the rights basically of the customer, like you mentioned, right? How do you balance that in the organization?
So funny enough, good on timing. I just presented this to one of our risk committees today, and it goes back again to communication and starting small. So in order you have to look at the landscape. You can't hide and bury your head underneath and pretend that it's going to go away. This is not just the future, this is already now. So what do we do about this now? Just like the World Wide Web, you're not going to ignore it. So how do we now work with it? What do we do with it? And so we are starting off with small use cases in terms of how we're leveraging AI. There are already other use cases for other, because there's various AI technologies and tools, right? But specifically when it comes to, for example, some of the new ones that are coming up, starting small use cases, simple ones that are not going to, contravene any privacy regulations, etc. Just things that will be simple to prove out, and how that is going, and what that means for how it could be used in our organization. How can it automate things? How can it facilitate work? How can it improve productivity? And then with that also talking with the various partners in the organization. So my scenario example, I speak very often, and we have a committee as well with the head of AI at the organization, as well as information security, cyber and IT risk, all of those areas, and my team, obviously, all of those areas we interact and interplay together, so we understand and have a better view of what's happening at the organizational level, and what areas are already starting to look at some of these technologies and uses, and what that would mean to them. And then, like I mentioned, bringing it up to the appropriate executive management, one, to let them know what this is, because automatically when something's new, it creates fear, and some people just want to shut it down. But once you start educating as to this is what it is, it has some scary parts to it, but it also has some really great things that it's going to help us with. So these are the great things that we're going to start showing you in small pieces, and the things that you're scared of this is how we're mitigating that. And I think having an honest conversation, and not trying to be perfect about it, because some of the stuff is still in design, like I mentioned, but showing that there is work being done on this, not to be afraid of it, and that we can do small POCs, so to speak, and then grow with it as we get more comfortable. We have the right protocols in place, and then expanding beyond what we're just seeing right now. So again, communication, change management, transparency. I think those are usually the key pieces that enable an organization to move ahead with innovation while still being comfortable with the risks.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I think, right, every time I talk about innovation, I tell people there is the hard stuff, and then there's the soft stuff, right? And most of the time, I think it's the soft stuff that prevents, I think, the innovation from succeeding. And those three pillars that we talked about essentially is the soft stuff, right? Like the change management, communication, and training. Last week, I was in London attending People Analytics World Conference. And one of my biggest takeaways, Anna, there was this movement in companies towards what they call as skill-based organizations as opposed to role-based organizations. And as you were describing your advice, I think to the talent, that's something that stuck with me, right? That I didn't hear you talk about anyone aspiring to become like a VP of data and AI risk, right? All of your advice was more about accumulating these skills, right? These individual skills that are going to be needed in the future. And a lot of ways, I think even companies don't know what roles actually they need. They're just talking in terms of skills. So very relevant, I think, and that is something that we are also trying to embrace in our own organization, is to move towards more competency-based development frameworks as opposed to like technology-based, right, or role-based frameworks. So, so thank you, Anna, for your advice. Any closing thoughts or takeaways for our viewers?
One thing that I just wanted to comment on the what you just said about me being in this role, the VP of Data and AI Risk. You're absolutely correct. This was not a role that I thought would envisioned, exist, etc. My comment to that is sometimes it's about taking opportunities that may seem that they are not fully established. And so like data ethics, for example, was that, this new role is that as well. But sometimes that creates actually a really great opportunity for you to showcase all of those skill sets that you may have, and then that are now applicable and can be used in this role or this new area. And then setting a foundation and a precedent for others now versus following a precedent and what the expectations should be. And people then envision, oh, that's the skill set and that's the kind of role that it is. This is new. And so I highly encourage people when they're seeing these new areas emerge and innovations, and out of that, obviously new jobs, take a chance. You might end up in a brand new career and you might end up being an expert in something that you never thought you would be. For example, with the data ethics space, because we, so embraced it at Scotiabank, we are one of the leaders in this space. And then I'm being called upon to, ask and opine on data ethics when it's something that 5 years ago, to be honest with you, from a business perspective, didn't exist, and there was no, leadership in that space. And so I highly encourage one to stay in this area, but two, also embrace the newness and possibilities of going into areas that have not yet been ventured into.
Awesome thought to end, Anna. Thank you for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subhash.